My research on mentoring and networking relationships has also looked at aspects of mentoring and networking and how it has facilitated or inhibited the progress of women in organizations. So this is some of the perspective for which I wanted to come and speak with you about this topic. I'm thrilled these days that more and more research is coming out talking about the female advantage, that boards of directors that have traditionally been dominated in the US by white males, they're finding these days that diversity is helping them, and that the more women that are on these boards of directors, the more successful these companies are. Similarly, in other companies with more women just in senior leadership roles, research is finding out that these companies are more profitable. So of course, the business case is being made for women in leadership roles. This is very important. And also, particularly these days, as more companies are concerned about corporate social responsibility initiatives, we find that having more women in senior leadership roles is associated with greater performance on those types of metrics in the areas of corporate social responsibility. We know that women bring new ideas and innovation and perspectives. And also there's increasing recognition that women are have the majority of purchasing power in their households. Think of your households. Who is the one doing most of the buying? And so women know what they want in terms of their products. They know what products that they need that are not currently available. And so women actually hold a great deal of wealth in the US for sure, and it's growing in many other countries as well. And also, we find increasingly that organizations need those individuals with soft skills, that it is not enough to take an authoritarian approach to managing your workforce. And women have long been regarded as being excellent in those soft skills, that they are good team players, that they show empathy and concern for their workers, for their employees, that they can handle conflicts effectively in the workplace. The idea is that when you have women in leadership roles, is that they are seeking out perspectives from all of their employees, as they want people to feel included. Women have always been focused on relationships and how to build good relationships and make people feel comfortable and people feel welcome. And when people feel that way, they want to share, and they will share their ideas. They don't feel threatened. Another statistic that I had found in my research here was that 1/3 of businesses globally are owned by women. In the US, that number is over 42, that's about 42% of new businesses are started by women. So another area to be proud of. And of course, I also wonder if part of that is women getting frustrated in their organizations and saying, well, I will just start my own. So we see that women are on the rise globally. Women represent 32% of individuals in senior management roles. This is the highest ever that was reported in 2022. In the US, we know, and it's been this way for quite a while, that more women are earning their bachelor's degrees, their master's degrees, and their doctorate degrees than men. And they are applying in large numbers, and also that women have higher grade point averages than men. Actually, in the US these days, there is talk of a crisis among men. People are wondering what has happened to the boys, that they're not going to college, that they're choosing not to, or that they're not performing as well in school as the girls. I will even confess that I have had many male faculty members say to me, I would rather have women in class. They pay more attention. They come, they're participative. Yes, so there's actually right now concern, what do we do about the boys? This is not a concern in India, apparently, but but it is a serious issue that we are worried about. So I want to mention some of these external barriers that hurt women. Some of these have already been mentioned in terms of their advancement in the workplace. So one of which is the similarity effect. We know that people tend to have an easier communication with people who are more similar to them, so that they have easier interaction. So if you think about those individuals who are at the tops of their organizations, in the boardroom, on the top management teams, in the senior leadership. So when you have those roles predominantly held by men, well, the men are more likely to know other men who would be good candidates for any openings that come up. They have met them in the lunchroom, maybe they have gone out golfing with them, or they've had some other types of informal interactions, after work interactions, and so they are comfortable with them. They feel like they have these commonalities, and so when positions open up, men come to their mind first. So actually, once you bring more females into these top executive roles, then something happens. When these positions come available, the women know other talented women who could very much fill this role. And so they can start questioning the men on this selection. And well, shouldn't we also consider these women over here who've got these backgrounds and who would be good at this? And my point being is that the more women you get in senior leadership roles, you need to have women in order to get women into these roles. As an example, research has found that if women go on a site visit to a company for their job interview, and they only meet men on their site visit, they don't tend to accept that job offer. So you really need to have women in order to get women in much more numbers. Lack of profit and loss experience has hurt women. We know that for people to reach those top executive positions, the C-suite positions, that they want people who've had direct responsibility for bottom line results in the organization. And a company might say, well, we have a lot of women, but perhaps they are in human resources or they are in accounting, but they're not in a position where they have that direct profit and loss experience. Therefore, they're not really qualified for it, and we can overlook them. These women are very talented and could do quite well in these profit and loss positions when given the choice, when given that opportunity. And so they need to have people who advocate for them on their behalf, that you're talented in this position, let's try your talents and skills and abilities in another position with more responsibility. These are the positions that are most sought after in organizations where there is a lot of competition. Stereotyping and discrimination. We know that laws do not prevent discrimination from occurring. Even though you might say, well, in the US, we have all sorts of laws to prevent discrimination, but we know that this happens regardless. And it is very difficult to combat, and an exhausting and a stressful process. Particularly when women hold only a very small percentage of a certain job role. So typically, Rosabeth Moss Kanter's research, Men and Women of the Corporation, a famous groundbreaking book, talked about how when women only held, say, 12% or less of the job role, how they were viewed as tokens. And as tokens, that would cause more stereotyping, more polarization, more exclusion from male networks of power. And I have an example for you that I thought was interesting. So as I mentioned, that I was the first female hired in 9 years, but I was fortunate to get on a number of selection committees, and we have a lot more women now. But a few years ago, maybe it was 15 years ago, there were 3, myself and 2 other women faculty, just having a conversation in the hallway. Just 3 women faculty talking. And one of the senior male faculty member passes us by and makes the comment that we are plotting to overthrow the College of Business. Yes. And we all looked at each other like, what is this? If you saw 3 male faculty members in the hallway having a conversation, you wouldn't think anything of it. But 3 females having a conversation, we're plotting a coup. And so you see that there is, I think, real fear about loss of power in organizations. That is real. Even though he may have been joking, we know that there was some truth behind what he was saying. Even that we were not plotting an overthrow, though, just so you know. Sexual harassment, of course, is a serious concern in countries around the world. The Me Too movement has helped draw more attention. So in case anyone thought that problem was done with and remedied, that no, it's not. And so organizations needing to be more sensitive in developing cultures that say that behavior is out of bounds, uncalled for, will be punished, not tolerated here. Now, in the US, and I'm sure it is the case across the globe, women do have more responsibilities for the home. They spend more hours taking care of the children, in addition to their jobs, taking care of the children, taking care of elderly parents, making sure that people have food on the table and clean clothes to wear, and the house is tidy. So we call that the second shift that women have. There is research that shows that more men are doing their part. Keep it up. You have happier marriages when you do. Yes. And but also companies can do more to help support the working parents and add some flexibility so it is easier for them. One of the interesting in the US, since COVID-19, many employees are refusing to go back to work, and we have a terrible labor shortage in the United States. I mean, it's terrible. All companies are hiring. They cannot get people. So they are having to pay more, which they need to do. Our minimum wage is completely insufficient. You cannot live on it. And they are finding out from procedures put in place, practices put in place after COVID, that, people can accomplish work from home. And so they are being much more flexible, which is having a lot of benefit on families, and particularly women in their responsibilities for child care and family and relatives. But also, as was mentioned in the video, that women still do have greater difficulty getting money when they want to start their own businesses, even though they are very good about paying money back. Women pay their bills, but it is still hard for them to get funding for their startups. So some ways to break some of these external barriers are holding those senior executives accountable. If they are being evaluated in their performance reviews for their efforts grooming women for top leadership positions, this will get them to do that. If they know it's important, if they know they're going to be held accountable for it, they will find ways. Examining your selection processes. We know that in the high-tech field, there are very few women in senior positions in the technology field. And so, for example, Google has done some examination of their selection processes. To be promoted at Google, you have to self-nominate. And I think even as I said this, some women in here might have said, really? Oh no. Because women are socialized that you don't boast, you don't self-nominate. We need other people to do that for us. And so that is very difficult. So what Google started to do now is they didn't get rid of the self-nomination process, but they have classes and training to help show people how to do that. They also recorded their job interviews, and they found that when they analyzed the data, men were more likely to use the word I, when talking about their accomplishments, but women, not socialized to do that, we would use we. And so they were being rated lower. And so really taking a look and realizing that we does not mean that these women did not play a huge role in those accomplishments. So really taking a look at your selection processes for different roles. Placing women in line positions with those profit and loss responsibility. I think that really what you need and what you can do for one another that is so important is to have your mentors and your peers, your colleagues. It's difficult for women to speak about their own accomplishments, but they have no problems speaking about others. And so having your allies, your males, talking up the things that you do, and your female colleagues as well, is really very beneficial for women in particular. The other two I'd mentioned there. So let me just, so these are some of the external barriers, things that we want to do, providing more flexible arrangements, for example, having cultures where it's psychologically safe for women, absent of discrimination and harassment. A few years ago, I made a decision. So at St. Ambrose, the vast majority of the time, so I have been there for 27 years at St. Ambrose University, and most of that was spent with graduate students, teaching graduate students. But a few years ago, I just realized I really felt that our undergraduate female students in particular did not realize what they would be in for when they left St. Ambrose University, where I feel that people are very sensitive and treating the male and female students both very well, that things had not changed enough in organizations. And so I developed a Women in Business course that I teach every fall. It is my favorite course to teach, I will confess. I also have men in the course, and some who have found it very, very helpful, and which I'm very, very pleased to say as well. So I have some barriers I'm going to mention. So I call these more internal barriers. Perhaps that's not a good term, as I'll explain next. So, and part of these barriers have to deal with socialization of women and girls. So we know that there are these external barriers that they're facing all the time, but there are things within us that we may not realize that are also holding us back. So girls tend to be socialized that, you need to wait to be asked for things that you might desire. That's how society works. Women are nice and patient, and they wait. Even Kate Middleton, they had a nickname for her while she was dating Prince William. It was Waity Katie, right? That yes, they had a nickname for her because women are supposed to wait, and they made that. So if women are asked to wait for the opportunities to be given to them, well, other people aren't waiting, that they are going ahead and asking for what they want. And then people know what they want. So this is what I would say more from socialization, from society, but something that can hold women back they may not realize. Not applying for opportunities because they don't meet all of the qualifications. So in many ways, women are often quite literal. So when they see a job advertisement and it lists all of the qualifications, there have been a number of research studies that say, well, women won't apply because they don't meet all of these qualifications. But we find that men will apply if they meet 50% of these qualifications. And the reality is the perfect applicant never exists. And so when they write an application, oftentimes this is, in our ideal world, you would have all of this. But that ideal candidate is imaginary. And so if you're interested in this position, to take a shot, take a risk. Sometimes women, because they're taught that modesty is appropriate, that they will downplay their achievements. They might have just done an excellent project and say, oh, it was nothing. Instead of saying, thank you, I'm really pleased with how it turned out. We worked really hard on this. So being comfortable with that, being comfortable receiving compliments and just saying thank you. And sometimes questioning their abilities when they are offered an opportunity. So if someone offers you an opportunity, realizing that you would not have been offered that opportunity unless that person felt you had what it needed to be successful in it. So if you are offered an opportunity, that person believes in you, or that offer would not have come. But sometimes women, when offered an opportunity, question themselves and will even volunteer somebody that they think will be better. But you were the one asked. So having confidence in yourself. In my Women in Business class, one of the things the women have to, or the women and the men in the class, they have to conduct 3 interviews. The first one is with an early career female. The second one is with a mid to late career female. And the third interview is a mid to late career stage male. Every year, one of the questions that they ask, they say to the males, has there been something that you've noticed that has held women back? And one answer is repeated over and over and over again, that the women lack confidence. And I'm saying, why? Here are these women who got better GPAs, who probably, who had the degree, who've got a history of excellent achievements here. But this is the one that comes out. And so having confidence in your skills and your abilities, being proud of what you've achieved. So some ways of breaking these internal barriers is they need training in negotiation. So in my class, one of my doctoral students comes in. I asked him in another course to develop some training on negotiation. He had negotiated over $1 billion in contracts for John Deere. And so he comes in and he talks about how to plan a negotiation for compensation, because we know that women are not offered the same amount as men. And the other non-monetary aspects they don't realize can be negotiable. So he comes in, he talks about strategy, how to plan, how to prepare, how to act, and then he comes back and does mock negotiations with the students in front of the class and debriefs them. It is the number one most helpful thing in this class. And then I have all these students who are reporting all of their successes, that they negotiated things, like a place to live when they got an internship in a city over the summer in a different place. They asked, and the company had housing that they could use for free. So no rent for a summer. Or other ones who got a job offer, and at the time she did negotiate. She wasn't able to get the salary moved over, bumped up, but she was proud of herself for trying. And then she emails me 6 months later from this job. She kept herself active on LinkedIn, and someone reached out to her for an opportunity, and she felt that she should at least be open to hearing this opportunity. And they offered her $20,000 more than her current job and the ability to work from home. So she was happy where she was, but she felt that she should tell her tell her boss. And then he talked to his boss, and she got a promotion and $25,000 more. So I'm saying, good heavens, this young woman is making more than some of the faculty at St. Ambrose now. But she sent me a note because she said, I didn't realize I could ask, and we had talked about these things. And so that's just very important. And keeping your eye on the job market, because you're not married to your employer. Okay. So asking for the opportunities that you want, that's very important. If you see a place where you would like to be, let people know that. My academic advisor, Dr. Joseph McCaffrey, gave me the best advice. He told me, he said, Monica, make people say no to you. Don't say no to yourself. And so there have been times in my career where I was wanting something or realizing, I don't have that much money or whatever. And he says, Monica, make people say no to you. And so I have asked for things. I put together the case, why they should say yes to me, and I have rarely heard the word no. But if you do hear the word no, you gave it a shot. And just because you hear the word no once doesn't mean that you're going to hear it again. So you can go ahead and ask a second time. So make people say no to you. Don't be the person who says no to yourself. Give yourself those options. Also, managers are not mind readers, and they also have short memories. One of my students had said, her faculty member had said, if you could come back for this internship next summer, I could get you a raise. And she came back the next summer, and he didn't say anything about the raise, and she didn't ask. They have short memories. They forget. You have to remind people and get that out on the table. And maybe you have to practice with people. So value your skills and accomplishments. And my comment is to take risk on yourself. you know you're working hard, that you got here to St. Claret or whatever university that you're from, and that you've worked hard in your career. And so take risk on yourself. And obtain feedback from mentors. Find the smartest person you know and make friends. You don't have to say, oh, would you be my mentor? But try and stop by and ask them about their career and suggestions that they might have. And you have your peer network and organizations. Talk to them, people that you trust. Okay. So I want to switch now a little bit as we talked about some of those barriers to the other aspect about redefining career success. And what does career success mean? We know that in the past, career success meant being male and being at those upper echelons of an organization. And now in this particular photo, we have a female climbing that corporate ladder, because we still traditionally think of career success as being high up in the hierarchy of an organization and making a lot of money. So we tend to focus on those objective measures of career success. Sometimes people will look at also, well, how satisfied are you with your career? But we do see changes in what career success looks like. Obviously, we are seeing a lot of women these days who are being very successful in their careers by these objective measures. But the objective measures aren't the only ones that exist. There are some career scholars that in the Academy of Management that I know, Tim Hall, Peter Heslin, and others, who have been involved in what they call the 5C project. And now they didn't talk to me because it is a mouthful, this 5C project. Cross-cultural collaboration on contemporary careers doesn't just roll off the tongue. But what they did in this project is that they interviewed people from multiple different countries to find out what career success looks like to you. And financial security, financial achievement, that was certainly mentioned by a number of people. But so were other things that we may not associate with career success. Some people said learning and development, that I'm able to grow. Others said, hey, for me, career success is that I have a good work-life balance, that I'm fulfilled at my job, but I also have a fulfilling family life, and I'm not so run down by the time I come home. Some people said it was the positive relationships that they have at work with their boss, with their coworkers, that this is their version of success. And others that they have more of a positive impact in their organizations or outside with their customers, maybe through entrepreneurship efforts, that they felt that they have had an impact. So the idea is that career success can look different to different people. So Dan Turbin, who was one of my mentors in my PhD program at the University of Missouri, and Peter Heslin, a friend of mine, said, here are some questions to ask yourself. So thinking about this, what does career success look like for you? Are you working in a role, in a culture that you're comfortable with, that you feel good about? Are you recognized and rewarded for your efforts? Are you developing yourselves in beneficial ways? Do you have mutually supportive relationships at work? Are there people that you're helping out people and they're helping out you as well, so that you have very mutually supportive relationships in your workplace? A good balance between your work and outside work activities. And lastly, are you prepared for career shocks? We see these days with the changes in technology and machine learning and AI that the workplace is very much in a period of disruption that I think will only become more disrupted. And so, do you have a backup plan? Do you have marketable skills that when you finish your degrees, that doesn't mean you're finished keeping yourself marketable? So that those are very important. And also, One of the last points that I would like to make here is to recognize your career anchor. I'm not sure how familiar you might be with that concept of career anchor. Edgar Schein, who is one of our management grandfathers who just passed away recently at a very elderly age, had developed this concept of career anchor. And the idea is this as your self-concept consisting of your talents and abilities and your values and your motives and needs as they pertain to your career. And that these can change over time as you gain more life experiences. And the reason he calls it is an anchor is because there are some values you need to figure out what it is for you that you won't give up if you have to make a choice. Always resonated with me because I saw how my career anchor changed. And so I'd like you to consider this. So Edgar Schein has 8 career anchors. So for example, some people, what they really want, what they feel excited about, what they want to do is they have this general managerial competence. They like to be managing things. That's what they like. Other people really want to be involved in the technical end of things. Still others are interested in entrepreneurial creativity. Others might be pure challenge. So if you think about Elon Musk, for example, one of the things that he has developed is Starlink with the idea of bringing internet to developing areas. I mean, this would be a huge advance. For some people, it's autonomy and independence. They want to have that type of flexibility and decision-making latitude in what they do, how they do it, when they do it. For some, it's security and stability. Others, it's more service-oriented, that we're dedicated to a cause. Maybe it's literacy, for example, making sure that people can read, fighting illiteracy, fighting poverty, homelessness, etc. And for some people, it might be a lifestyle, which is more of that work-family balance. So, as an example of how this changed, when I went to college at St. Ambrose, I majored in accounting. I was good at it, but I knew, importantly, at that time, that there were well-paying jobs in accounting that I would be able to get. And my father passed away suddenly when I was a high school senior, and I could see, my mother had never worked during the marriage, how quickly one's ability to manage can change. And so I took the safe route and security route and worked in public accounting for 3 years. Those were 3 long years. I had my CPA, but I realized that this was not for me. That the idea of going and being at a desk all day, long hours, looking at numbers and paper back then. Laptops were a new thing. Having computers was still a relatively new thing, but that this was not for me. And so as I was considering what I wanted to do next, I had my CPA, but I was very interested in organizational behavior, the motivation and teamwork and leadership and HR policies and organizations. And so I thought being a faculty member would provide me with both the autonomy and independence. At St. Ambrose, the faculty are on 9-month contracts. So, but also that if you are a tenured faculty member, you also have a measure of security as well. My older sister, when I said that I was leaving my job as a CPA, thought I was nuts. She thought I was crazy because you can make money and all these things. But I said, yeah, no. And so for me, that's a change of a career anchor. But also, as you considered this and you think about what is success for you, it was mentioned that, yes, I have served as the DBA director, the director of our Doctor of Business Administration program for 20 years at St. Ambrose. So it hasn't been a consecutive 20 years. But someone might say, well, is this really success that she spent 20 years as the DBA director? Why didn't she progress up in academic administration? As we think about traditional notions of career success is that you move up and up and up. Why didn't she become a dean? Or why didn't she become a provost? And so autonomy and independence are my career anchors. And the life of a dean and a provost, they don't really have that, at least not in the US. And so for me, that wasn't the idea of a successful career. I would be waiting to be back as a faculty member. So what I want to leave you with here is to really own those career choices that you make and how you define career success, because that somebody else may have a different notion of what career success looks like. But what is it for you? So I'd like you to consider that, and thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful conference.